My name is Eric Guerra. I'm with reservetastings.com. My journey in wine has been truly outstanding and been very special. I've been fortunate to work for some of the greatest brands in the industry. I started off my career with Kendall Jackson early on. And at the time, it was close to 6 million cases, and I was the marketing manager for one of the greatest brands the United States has ever seen. And every varietal that I managed was at the top of the category. After that, I went on to Allied Domecq, managed brands like Clos du Bois and Perry Jouet and G.H. Mumm and Jay Garcia and Gary Farrell, which is a Russian River gem. And that's really where I learned luxury marketing, was at Gary Farrell. After that, I moved on to private label. In the United States at that time, private label was getting very popular, and I worked for a wine company called the Terravant Wine Company. And I was one of the founders of that company. We went from 7,000 cases up to about 250,000. And we sold brands to every retailer from coast to coast, from luxury on premise to Kroger and Safeway to Bevmo to Total Wine. And recently I was just at Vineyard 29, one of the most prestigious luxury brands in all of St. Helena, Napa Valley. You know, the quality that defines a luxury wine brand that I found is the perception. Now, there's a lot of wine brands that I've managed that have been very high priced, thousands of dollars a bottle, hundreds of dollars a bottle. But the perception has been the most interesting thing, and the one thing that I can call out across all the brands that really sets it apart. What I mean by that is that it's always perceived as something special. Now, I think luxury can be, you know, the screaming eagles of the industry at thousands of dollars a bottle. But it also could be Kendall Jackson Chardonnay at $13 or $15 a bottle. It depends on what luxury means to the consumer. If someone's drinking $2 Chuck every day and they're drinking Kendall Jackson Chardonnay on the weekends, then that's their luxury brand. And their perception of that brand is that it's luxury. But in the wine industry, obviously, the Domaine des Romanée Contis, the champagnes, that's all perceived as being luxury. And perception, the consumer perception, is what sets all these brands apart, and really the successful luxury brands from the non-successful ones. When managing a luxury wine brand, it's a very, very difficult job, as you can imagine. You think that it would just sell itself, and it does many times. I've managed Sauvignon Blancs at $175 and they sell out, if you can believe that. But it's how you manage it. It's a whole different perception. When you manage other wine brands that you're trying to sell, you have volume, you need to make profits. It's super important to push the wine. And most of the wine brands that we manage in the industry, you have to kind of move and you got to figure out new people, new distribution points. But in luxury wine, it's not the placements or how much wine you sell, it's the quality of the places that you sell it. It's the price points, and it's very delicate. It's like holding a baby bird in your hands. It's incredibly beautiful, it's incredibly delicate, excuse me. So at the price points, knowing where people will buy it and maybe not buy it, knowing where the brand shows up, meaning is it showed up at the right restaurant, or is it put in places that won't help the brand essence? So it's a whole different mindset of making sure that you manage this at a very delicate level, and you think about the quality of the placements, the price points, the quality of the wine, the quality of the packaging, far more than the volume and the amount of money you make. All of that seems to come if you get all the other things correct. So when you manage a luxury wine brand, the one thing that is probably the most difficult thing is the pace. And what I mean by pace is it takes a long time. I've managed a lot of wine brands. It always seems to go very fast. You get out there, you sell a wine, you want to sell it and away it goes, and everybody gets crazy about it and gets into it. But the pace of a luxury wine brand usually is slower. Sometimes it takes months, Many times it takes years, decades, centuries. And so you really don't know that if the price increase that you took or the distribution that you decided on is going to take hold sometimes for a year or two, vintages beyond. The other thing with luxury wine brands, it's all about your history as well. So sometimes when you make a wine now, you really won't know how well it's received for 5 or 8 or 10 years, sometimes in the real luxury market, 50 years beyond now. So the pace is a lot slower. You have to be a lot more patient, and it's a much more difficult thing to do, especially when you're like me and you're kind of on all the time and you want things done. You got to learn to chill and go at the pace of the brand. So what quality in a distributor or a broker do I look for? Well, the first thing is knowledge. You got to be at the highest level. To manage the greatest brands in the world, and some of them I've been able to manage, you have to be excellent. You got to know your stuff. You got to know your wine. You got to be able to talk the talk and have a great experience and great approach. Secondly, we look for is practicality. You know, there's a lot of meetings that I've been in where they say, yeah, sure, we'll be able to sell what you got. And then 10 months later, you call them up and not really see any movement. The real quality distributors tell me what they could do and they hold to it. And sometimes it's not the numbers that I want to hear. But you know what though? It's within what they believe they could do. They know their markets better than I do. If it's a Boston distributor or if it's a Texas distributor, they're going to know that city or state far better than me, so I'm going to listen to them if I believe in them. And the third thing is authenticity. I want people who I believe that I can have a beer with afterwards. Not just business, but someone who I could trust and sit down with. So when they tell me things are tough or they're good, I know that they're 100% accurate.